Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the first episode of TechWary Q&A, where I'll be answering all of your questions on PC hardware and technology. User EricKibara14 asks, does it matter which 3080 I get for gaming? I currently have a 3060 Ti, but my wife wants her own gaming PC, so she's taking mine and I'm building a new one. Now that graphics cards are available for reasonable prices, I was planning on getting a 3080. It's just for gaming, so it doesn't matter if it's a 10GB or 12GB. Also, does the boost clock on the spec sheet matter? Here's the ones I was considering. In a latter comment, EricKibara14 clarifies that the $740 variant is the MSI Ventus 3X RTX 3080 12GB. The $760 model is the Gigabyte Gaming OC RTX 3080 12GB. And the $800 model is the ASUS TUF Gaming RTX 3080 12GB. Now, to answer this user's first question, if there's a difference between the 10GB and the 12GB variants of the RTX 3080, the 12GB RTX 3080, of course, not only obviously has 2 more gigabytes of extra VRAM, but also comes with a few more CUDA cores, a wider memory bus and bandwidth, slightly more tensor cores and RT cores, and slightly higher power draw, all of which of course translates to slightly higher performance. As shown by this review, the difference again isn't very much substantial, but seeing as how pricing is so similar between the 10GB and 12GB models that this user listed, personally, I would just go for the cheapest 12GB RTX 3080 as that would provide the best value for the money in this case. As for which 12GB 3080 model to go for, oftentimes the boost clock that's specified on the spec sheet does not matter very much, as it's typically just a very slight overclock that's applied by the manufacturer or board partner such as EVGA, MSI, or Gigabyte in order to allow them to advertise these arbitrary higher numbers. And of course, these very slight overclocks are typically nothing that you wouldn't be able to do yourself without only a few minutes in MSI Afterburner. These factory overclocks also often come down to only a few percentage differences in real-world performance. Looking at a few reviews for the different 3080 12GB models listed, the MSI Ventus 3X definitely comes in at the lowest price for a reason. Many people say that although the card is overall of a decent quality, the card can run a little hot right out of the factory. Many users report that by undervolting the card, they were able to achieve much lower temperatures while maintaining much lower fan noises. This trend seems to follow what we've seen with a lot of the other RTX 30 series cards, where a lot of these cards seem to come out of the factory at their maximum possible potential performance levels. For more information on undervolting, you can always check out this video. Next up, we have the Gigabyte RTX 3080 12GB Gaming OC. Now, with this card, Gigabyte seems to have done a very good job with good build quality, great performance, and good temperatures overall as well. Overall, many people seem to agree that this card will offer the best price to performance ratio. And finally, we have the ASUS TUF Gaming variant. This card seems to have a very large cooler that on any other lower tiered SKU like the 3060 or maybe even the 3070 would be a little bit overbuilt for its size. However, such a large cooler on the 3080 12GB would definitely help to keep temperatures and noise levels at a much lower level than you might be able to get with some of these other 3080 12GB variants. However, this larger cooler of course also comes with a higher cost. Personally, if it was up to me, I would save the little bit of money and just go with the MSI or the Gigabyte card. But if noise or temperatures are a big issue for this user, then of course the ASUS card would definitely cover their bases a lot better than the others. In this next question, this user asks, what is the best big case out there? I used to use the Corsair Air 540. They don't make it anymore and I want something newer anyway. The only ones I found with a similar build are much smaller than the 540. I'm looking for a big case, preferably with USB 3 ports and made of metal. Any suggestions? By big case here, I assumed that this user was talking about full tower cases, and I came up with a few suggestions. If money and space is of no concern to them, then definitely the Corsair Obsidian 1000D is an absolute monster of a case that can actually house an ATX and ITX build at the same time. This case actually conveniently includes a total of 4 USB 3.0 ports and 2 USB 3.1 Type-C ports to boot, so they won't be running out of any I/O anytime soon. This review by Hardware Canucks should definitely give the user a little bit of perspective on what the case looks like and how one might proceed to start building in it. If, of course, this user has a little bit more of a reasonable budget, then two options include the Corsair 7000D Airflow and the Fractal Design Meshify 2 Extra Large, both of which are slightly larger versions of cases that have been already very well received as mid-tower cases. The Corsair 7000D Airflow, which is very similar to the Corsair 4000D Airflow, is a much cheaper, albeit a little smaller case than the Corsair Obsidian 1000D. Instead of having a solid front panel, this case includes vents instead, which allows for much better airflow, and also includes 4 USB 3.0 ports plus 1 USB 3.1 Type-C port. On the other hand, the Fractal Design Meshify 2 Extra Large is another option that's also a little bit more budget friendly at a little over $200. And like the Corsair 7000D Airflow, includes ventilation for its front panel with 2 USB 3.0 ports and 1 USB 3.1 Type-C port. This user responded by specifying that they're a big fan of Corsair's quality and were a little doubtful of Fractal's quality due to not having heard about them at all. Now, in my humble opinion, I think Fractal has definitely made a pretty good name for themselves and makes solid cases. This in-depth review by Gamers Nexus, which goes into detail about build quality as well as thermal performance, should definitely help to put this user's doubts at ease. Now, if they're a fan of Corsair and want to stick to their products, the 7000D is definitely still a very great option. However, of course, going with the Fractal is also not a risky choice. Ultimately, it's up to them at the end of the day on whether they would like to spring for more I/O or whether they would like to spring for the different visuals that both case provides. And that just about wraps it up for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. You might enjoy my last video where I provided some feedback on one user's build list. You might also enjoy some of my other upcoming videos where I'll be covering similar questions like the ones in this video, so be sure to get subscribed for that. See you all in the next one.